and welcome to Best Of. On the Best Of, we focus on the best in the areas of business, entertainment, sports, and the community. And this week, we've had some great weeks, but this week, actually, we have a quadruple threat because we have someone that covers entertainment, sports, and the community and business as well. He's none other than Mr. Ken Moody. Mr. Moody, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation, Rick. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, we've been really excited from the time that we've had that call from your sister, who she kind of seems like she's the business manager, so to speak. So we got an opportunity to talk, and was just really pleased that you were willing to come on and share some seeds of wisdom with our audience today.
Gotcha. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And my mom always told me that people think enough of you to invite you out or that type of thing and be gracious enough to accept. And so the pleasure is definitely all mine.
Awesome. That's great. One of the things that I would like to remind the audience of is that we are committing our entire year to sports and athletics, and really to have our young people and their family members, whoever that might be, to support them, focusing on the ABCs, if you will. The A being bring your A game, B being plan B, and then that C, which is really critical, is the career transition piece. Coach Rick Winters is my training and coaching name for athletes, if you will, and we talk affectionately about that really representing respect, integrity, and excellence. And I am proud to say that I'm talking with a man and someone, it seems like whenever I mention your name, I keep getting the same responses from this person, and respect, integrity, and excellence describes you. So thank you very much for all that you bring.
Thank you so much for those nice words, and to the gentleman that says those nice things, I pay him well.
Oh, listen. Well, I know one of those people is Roby Williams, yes, so if it's not true, he won't say it.
Exactly.
As you know. One of the things that we'd really like to go ahead and get started with is just to find out a bit about you. Tell us some things about you.
Actually, I'm a native Memphian. Grew up in the city in South Memphis, youngest of 11 kids. Married to my wife, Gwendolyn. We've got 3 beautiful daughters, Jasmine, Kendra, and Reba. Jasmine is, in a few days, will be getting her mechanical engineering degree from Baylor. My middle daughter, Kendra, she's a sophomore at Baylor. And my youngest daughter, Reba, she is a senior to be at the Hutchinson Girls School. And again, I mentioned I'm the youngest of 11 kids, 6 girls and 5 boys, 10 of living. My mother raised us as a single parent. As we were talking before the show came on, I lost my dad while my mom was pregnant with me, and so I grew up in a single parent family, and I would tell you that I never knew we were poor because she was just the best example for me and my brothers and sisters that we can have. And that example started by grounding us in the church. We grew up in the church. We knew that every Sunday morning we're going to be in Sunday school, and Sunday we'd be in church. And so she made sure that our foundation and our faith in the church was solid. And she also focused on education. I will tell you that 6 days a week we knew that we had something to do. We were going to be in school Monday through Friday, and then Sunday we were going to be in church. But her commitment to raising us to be those respectable individuals with the integrity is why I am who I am.
Wow, that's awesome. And I could tell just the way that you talked, it's just second nature. It's interesting that you have said what a dear friend of mine, and I refer to him as either coach or big brother, but William Smith, met him back in Indiana, and he never referred to his athletes as athletes. They were always students first.
Right.
So that's what the very first thing that came out of your mouth when you talked about your daughter was her degree and where they were going to school, which is quite interesting. And that's the critical piece of it. And that's what Ricks and Coach Ricks represents, because you have to be a student first. You have to really prepare for that plan B.
Right.
So thank you very much for that. And you are a king among a queen and 3 princesses, huh?
Yes, I am. I'm always the most popular guy in the house. But yeah, again, it was interesting because I always wondered what type of father I'd be because I grew up without a father. And so, again, my mother always set that example, but there were always strong, positive males in my life, from my pastor to my coach to my principal to deacons in the church. And so I've always had those strong role models in my life, and God has always blessed me with having that.
Absolutely. Well, I said education. You were blessed enough to have that strong foundation, too, of being a Christian. So, yes. Mom, we know that your mother's in heaven and my mom's in heaven, and they're both looking down on us, and I was the only. So all of that energy that needed to be expended, that's why I ended up being such a good guy, because she never spared the rod at all.
Yes,
well, let's find out a bit more about you, because, you know, the one thing that's going to happen is I know we're going to run out of time before we really get warmed up. But you were an athlete, student athlete at the U of M. Tell us about kind of how you got started there and your experience there.
Athletics ran in my family. I mean, my older brothers all played basketball, and being from a single parent family and mom working, you had to find some extracurricular things to do while she was at work to keep us out of trouble, and sports was that out. And so we all, it's interesting, all of my brothers and sisters, we all graduated high school. We all went to college. 5 of us graduated college, and 2 of us got master's degrees. And so that foundation and the importance of education was always in the house. And so in basketball, you know, you're taught, and it's an old cliche, but it's so real, because in basketball, you should use basketball. You should use sports and not allow it to use you. And I was blessed to do that because of sports. I got a free education. I got to see the country. I got to see the world. And so I was able to use that basketball experience to broaden my horizons. And so it allowed me also to learn life lessons by playing in basketball, because it's a team sport. It's not about you individually, it's about you helping your team. And that's how my mother raised us. It was always about us helping each other or us helping other people. And so that team concept has always been instilled in me. And so I did get the opportunity to be blessed to play for then Memphis State University. Now it's the University of Memphis, but it was Memphis State when I got to play, when I was there, played for the late Coach Larry Finch. And I would tell you that it was just the best years of my life. We were like stars and celebrities in this city, and that, I would tell you this, that was so important to have a mother in my life like I did, because as a 19 and 20-year-old kid playing basketball in your hometown and for a program that's huge, you know, you get the big head. You get a huge ego sometimes. You think it's about you, but I'll never forget, I had been gone away from home for about 4 or 5 months, and I hadn't came back to the house much, and I came back one Sunday for dinner, and me and my brothers and sisters were sitting around the house, and we were talking, and I don't know what I said, and I know I didn't mean to say it disparagingly to any of my siblings, but my mother took it as though I had become this person that thought that I was somebody and forgotten where I came from. And I mean, she snapped me back in my place, you know, in a heartbeat. And so again, I wasn't intentionally trying to be egotistical, but she felt I was, and I later that, you know, she didn't hold her tongue, and she thought she needed to speak to a certain point, she did. And so that always stay with me, and that is be humble, be appreciative, and know that you earn none of God's blessings. He's just a loving God, and He's all, you know, unconditional loving God, and He gives you blessings. And so, I mean, I just can't say enough that I'm who I am because of my upbringing, and my mother was just such a important role in that for me.
Right. Well, you know, there are a number of things that you've said, and I'd like to kind of go back and and capture some of those because I think they're really noteworthy. I did not get an opportunity to meet Coach Finch and converse with him. However, just as you were talking, it reminded me that we were church members for a while. However, he was ill at the time, and his wife is just an incredible lady. I tell you, she took such good care of him. But the one thing that really stood out most as you talked about those men in the village, if you will. And I was blessed enough to have those men in the village too. And I could see that you were paying back. You may not recall this, but, well, I'm sure that you do, but as you were talking, I could see you because you were the person rolling Coach Finch into at least one of the events. I do recall that.
Gotcha.
So that he sowed into you, unlike a lot of other people can, and your mom was just right on point because there are so many folks who don't have that gratitude that you have. So, you know, you learned your lessons. I always say to the parents, hey, thank you very much. But then I look at the young person too because they have to be willing to really listen. You know, you also talked about your family. And I do recall coming to your campaign gathering and seeing, and I met some of your brothers. You guys were functioning as a team there. So you guys, even as a family, you tend to function pretty well, huh?
Yeah, we do. I mean, growing up the youngest of 11 kids in South Memphis, we didn't have materialistic things. And there were so many times, I won't say so many times, but as a child, I remember people looking down on us because my mother was a single parent raising 11 kids, and they all but blamed her, you know, for being in that situation. And so I always said that if I was ever able to accomplish anything or to be able to help or give back, I would do that. And mentioning Coach Finch, I would tell you that he's probably one of the most influential men in my life. And the one thing about Coach that was so positive for us was when I played for the Tigers, we were all from Memphis. I mean, the entire team, we were from Memphis. We had all played against each other in high school. And so when Coach recruited us, he really didn't recruit us, the players. He recruited our families, our parents.
Wow, that's awesome.
He went to them so he could get to know them. And once he got to know them, then he knew what type of kids we were. And so once he had them to buy into that playing for the university was the best thing, he knew he didn't have to sell us, that our parents were going to allow us to make that decision, but they were going to have an influence on that. And the other thing about it was, once he recruited us and he got us there, and when we got out there and we felt we were grown and that we could do things our way, he just reminded us that, you know, Mom, just a phone away, or Mom's just 10 or 15 minutes away. I know where you're from. I know what you're made of, and he never let us deviate from our upbringing. He knew what our parents had invested in us, and he always held us true to that.
Well, you know, I am glad to hear that because that really serves as a good acid test for me. And man, we got to get together and bring those days back so that we can bring some respect and